Hey everyone. So, having had some trouble getting a working model into the Spark editor, I thought I'd make a quick tutorial and hopefully save some people some headache and how to get a very basic model and prop from 3ds Max into the Spark editor for use in your maps. So to begin, I'm just going to create a new mod quickly, and let's call this just box, and that'll keep everything simple. Then going to open up 3ds Max and we'll start our model from scratch. Let's just full screen our main perspective window by hitting the Alt W shortcut, and we'll place down just a simple box shape. Let's go for 2 meters cubed with 3 segments on each side so we can do a little bit of detailing. We'll just speed all of this up because the main thing's really getting the prop into the editor. So yeah, I'm just going to choose a rock texture and apply that to my object. Now once you're fairly happy with the object and prop you have, one of the most important steps is to UV unwrap your object. So we're going to open up the modifier, go down to unwrap, and we'll switch back to polygon subedit mode and then click on open UV editor. Now because it's a box, you can just go mapping and go unfold, and it will unfold it into a kind of plus cross shape. We'll do walk to closest face, and there you can see it's unwrapped it for us. This is what your object uses to kind of map all the textures and the specular and normal and all that kind of thing that you may well put onto it later. So I'm just going to scale this a bit and drag it around. I don't really like them sitting on the edges, but you can kind of play with it depending on what kind of object you have and move it around. Next I'm going to use render to texture, shortcut 0 to get my textures out, which I could edit in Photoshop, and what Spark's going to use to actually build the model and material. Under mapping coordinates, you want to make sure you have use existing channels. You can have already unwrapped it itself. If you're letting it go automatic, of course you can just use automatic. And we'll click add down here so we can get just our normal texture. Now you can also do your specular and your normal and everything like that as well. But for this one I'm just going to do the plain Albedo texture map. And we can save that straight to our model source folder and our mods folder. Give it a name. Click OK on that. And then we'll change the size of this. So I'm just going to set it at 2 meg because we can, and then click render, and that'll render out your mapping coordinates. Next step is to open it up in Photoshop so we can save it as a .psd. Now you could obviously edit your texture here and do some final work on it, add some details and things like that. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to save it in Photoshop and just save it as box01. There we go. Now come back into 3ds Max, and what I'd like to do is change that texture file to the new one we've just made in our source folder. Drag that onto our object and you can see already the seams and things look a bit better. Then once you're finally completely happy with your object, it's now time to export it. Now for the file type, you need to use Open Collider, and you'll need to download this. It doesn't come with 3ds Max, and I'll offer a download link in the comments. And then just save that to your model source folder and give it a name for whatever you want. So I'm going to go for box01 again. Once that's exported, the next very important step is you want to open up that .dae and you want to search for init. And once you've found that, what you want to do is just get rid of that full stop / and just leave it with box01.psd or whatever you've called your main texture file. Next we want to create 2 text files which the builder is going to use to actually build a model. So the first one's going to be the name of whatever your prop's going to be, model_compile, which I put in there. And then for the second one, so we can just copy that really. And the second one's going to be exactly the same name but .material. We'll open our model compile file first, and all we want to put in there is geometry, space, and then the name that you've exported, so in our case box01.dae. Next we'll open up our material file. Now there's actually quite a lot that can go into this file, so I'd advise having a read on the forums and getting an idea of what's in there, or indeed the wiki. But for our purposes, what I'm going to do is just open up the wiki link, which I'll put in my comments, and just copy these 3 lines. Now this is for the material file, so we will need to change it slightly for the models, but the basis is there. So we'll just copy that and paste it in. Now see here for the shade, there are a number of different shaders that you can use in NS. I'm just going to leave it as level because it'll do for what we want. And then for the albedo map, this is your straight up texture that we used before in 3ds. So obviously change that to models / and then put in whatever you've called your texture.dds, because this will be after the build has converted your Photoshop file into .dds. We'll just put box01 for there. It's the same name. And then of course I don't need the normal map for now, so I'm actually just going to remove that. Then we can save that. And we're pretty much there. So I'm going to open up my builder and just go build. And then we're going to build those 4 things without any issues. So no problem. Open up our viewer. I'm going to open up output here because then we can see if there's any errors, and then open up our box model. Now you can see this is actually in my output folder now, so this is the built model, and there we go in the viewer. So now that we've got that, you can see it doesn't look so great. The specular and bump and normal map and things aren't in there, but you do have a prop. So adding the other things in and rendering those, you can have a look how to do that, and then you put them in the same way in your material file. And you now have them in. So you can see there it's telling me there's no normal map, but that's fine. We'll be able to open up the editor now and have a look. So I'm just going to open up the props here, and because I've launched this from my mod launchpad, I can just type in box, and there it is. There's my prop. So I'll just pop that into the game world, and there it is. So I made it about 2 meters. In the editor it's slightly bigger than that, but that's pretty close. So if you are modeling things to fit in the editor, it's close enough that you'll be able to. And there we go. There's my box. Doesn't look the greatest, but it is at least a model that's in the editor and that you could get in your map. Hope that helped. Any questions, please post them on the forum.